Today we are moving on to talking about the gyroscopic instruments. In this video we are going to briefly introduce the two important gyro principles, and then look at how attitude indicator made use of those principles to function. The gyroscopic instruments include the attitude indicator, turn coordinator, and heading indicator. Together with the pedostatic system, they form the 6 primary flight instruments, often called the six-pack. Gyroscopic instruments, as the name suggests, rely on gyroscopic principles, rigidity in space and precession, to do their magic. Alright, let's see what precession is all about. To understand it, first think about how a regular object reacts when we give it a nudge. You know, like when we push on the top of it, the effect takes place right where we pushed. However, that's not how it works with a gyroscope. A gyro can be any disc-like object spinning at high speed around an axis. When you apply a force to the top of the gyro, the effect doesn't happen right away at that spot. Instead, it occurs at a point 90 degrees along the direction of its rotation. This delay in reaction is what we call precession. This property also plays a crucial role in the left-turning tendency of aircraft, so we'll revisit this concept with a more in-depth explanation later in other videos. Another significant property is rigidity in space. Essentially, it is the conservation of angular momentum. Without any external forces acting on it, a rapidly spinning gyroscope maintains a fixed position in the plane in which it is spinning. This principle is what allows us to ride a bicycle without toppling over easily. All 3 gyroscopic instruments heavily rely on this principle to accurately measure and indicate an aircraft's orientation and movement. Now, let's explore how this principle applies to the attitude indicator. The attitude indicator gives information about the pitch or bank of an aircraft. Pitch refers to the rotation about the airplane's lateral axis, while bank or roll movement involves the rotation about the longitudinal axis. These two axes, lateral and longitudinal, together form a horizontal plane. In other words, having one single reference plane allows us to measure the magnitude of both pitch and bank. This is where the rigidity in space of a gyro comes into play. Within the attitude indicator's casing, a gyro is mounted in alignment with the horizontal plane. As it spins, the rigidity in space principle prevents it from deflecting and keeps it horizontally oriented. The bases of the pitch and roll gimbals also align with the horizontal plane but at right angle to each other. Think of them as corresponding to the lateral and longitudinal axes. Meanwhile, the gimbals can rotate freely in response to any pitching or rolling motions of the aircraft. And those rotation angles, measured relative to the horizontal plane created by the spinning gyro, tell us the pitch or bank angles. The attitude indicator is typically vacuum-powered. And you'll find a handy knob at the bottom of it, allowing you to tweak the miniature airplane's alignment to match your line of vision. Generally, you want those tiny wings to line up with the artificial horizon. The width of the bar representing a 2-degree pitch angle. The attitude indicator is pretty reliable, probably the most reliable one among the 6 primary instruments. It can handle most minor errors on its own. For example, during acceleration or deceleration in level flight, you might notice a momentary nose-up or nose-down indication, but it quickly returns to a level attitude. So, these errors are usually not a big deal. However, there are limits to its capabilities, which vary depending on the aircraft make and model. Typically, it can handle up to 60 degrees of pitch or 100 degrees of bank. Beyond that, you might just send it tumbling. To stay ahead of any potential quirks, it's always a smart move to flip through the POH or flight manual specific to your aircraft. This will give you the lowdown on any specific instrument nuances you should be aware of. Hey, we've just walked through the principles of gyroscopes and how they apply to the attitude indicator. In the next video, we'll continue our journey with the other gyroscopic instruments. Stay tuned.